Hello, I am Seamus Donoghue of Eve University, and this is the 7th and final episode on my walkthrough of the Sisters of Eve Level 1 Epic Arc, The Bloodstained Stars. If you're having problems trying to deal with an NPC named Kritz and Parthis, or an NPC named Dagan, this is the correct place. So, after I finished recording episode 6 last night, I started planning ahead for how I was going to deal with those two particular named NPCs, and I decided it would be a good idea to get a new ship for the purpose. So this is an Algos class Galente destroyer. It has bonuses to drone maximum velocity, drone hit points and damage, and also to small hybrid turret tracking speed. But I won't be using small hybrid turrets on this particular fit, for reasons that I'll explain later. So the high slots are 280mm howitzer artillery 1s, and you may, if you've been watching earlier in the series and How to Survive EVE Online, you might recall that I started training small projectile turret. For the record, today is Wednesday, March the 7th, 2018. Here is a recent list of the skills that I've been training. I've trained a number of different things since last episode, while trying to figure out how am I going to handle this with a new character with so few hit points. But yeah, the Algos is bonused for the use of drones. It's got a 60 cubic meter drone bay, but it's only got 35 megabits per second of bandwidth, so it can only use 35 cubic meters of its drones at any given time. And I only have drones level 4 on this character right now, so I can only launch 4 drones at a time. So my plan is to use 3 mediums and a light drone. So that will use up all 35 megabits per second of bandwidth. I have more drones than that in the drone bay, because drones are essentially flying turrets. You launch them, you tell them to attack something that you've target locked. They'll go out and fly and attack that thing, but they can themselves be target locked, shot at, and destroyed separately from your ship. So it's a good idea to have some extras, just in case. My low slots are drone damage amplifiers, and they're a particular meta variant of drone damage amplifiers. Still relatively inexpensive, but they use a little bit less CPU than the Meta Zero version, and provide a slightly larger damage bonus to the drones, and I have 3 of those here. Be aware that there is something called stacking penalties, so these are not each 1.17 multipliers to the damage output of my drones. I'm not going to go into stacking penalties in this particular episode, but be aware that this one's going to be a 1.17 multiplier to my drone damage. Since this one's affecting the same attribute, it's going to be a 1.09 multiplier to the drone damage or something, and so on. So again, I'm using... The reason I switched to artillery as opposed to the Galente's usual weapons, railguns or blasters, is because with the projectile turrets, they can be loaded with different ammunition types, which deal different types of damage. Phase plasma is mostly thermal with a little kinetic. But I've also got fusion, which is mostly explosive and kinetic, which is going to be important for Dagan, but also proton and EMP, which lean more on electromagnetic damage, which is going to be important for Kritz and Parthis. I've also switched to an afterburner, partly because I'm really tight on the CPU and power grid right now with this character's skill points, but also because it does still give me a speed boost without making me a bigger target like a micro warp drive would. And finally, I've got optical... I've got a variant of the tracking computers. These will help the range of my high slot weaponry. They can also help the tracking speed of my high slot weaponry if I swap out the scripts like that. So now they help the tracking speed instead, or I can leave out the scripts and they do a little of each. But I anticipate I'll need the range more than anything else. Oh, I forgot the rigs. 2 small processor overclocking units, because again, I'm really tight on the CPU. And a small anti-explosive pump so that my explosive resistance on my armor isn't quite so low. Let's talk to Sister Alatura and begin the final chapter. She wants you to take something from this station. Hold on, let me sort my inventory here then. She wants you to take something from the station, bring it to Idoto, and presumably then come back. So go ahead, accept the mission. And let's undock. And you know how to travel through Stargates at this point, so I'm going to skip ahead through that. 4 Stargate jumps and warping to the next to the destination station.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
Alright, I've skipped ahead to where I've arrived at the station in question. Talk to Sister Alatura, complete the mission, request the next mission. And she requires you to come back to Ardon. So while traveling here to Idoto, I realized I haven't yet grouped my drones. First of all, let me get started traveling. Because I've only got 35 megabits per second of bandwidth, I can't launch all of my drones all at once. So I want to make sure that I send out the right mix of drones. So I already split my hammerheads into a stack of 2 and a stack of 3. I'm going to right-click the stack of 3, move the drone to the new group, let's say thermal mixed, because it's mixed sizes. Right-click one of the hobgoblins, move drone to thermal mixed. There we go. Alright. I'm probably going to need key binding shortcuts. Now, I can launch the drones when I'm not trying to warp anywhere. I can launch the drones by left-clicking and dragging this folder out into space, and that will launch the drones. I can also just right-click the folder header and launch drones. It will also help to have key binding shortcuts for this. Yes, these are not the bindings I usually use. I use a Logitech gaming mouse, so I have 12 thumb grid buttons on the side of the mouse, 3 of which I typically use for drones. So I've set my Logitech gaming mouse to the correct profile that I use with EVE Online. Now I'm going to right-click, edit shortcut, already being used for Windows Solar System map. So clear that shortcut, go back to the drones. Alright. Edit, F9, good. All drones return in orbit, edit shortcut, I'll set that F14. All drones return in drone bay, I'll set that F15. Alright, good. That's all set. Alright, let's skip ahead through the rest of the travel. So while traveling, I noticed I got a new notification. I am in need of your services, videomaker Seamus Donahue, for a very special mission. You might be confused. You'll probably come across this yourself at some point. So, ignore that for now. That's not actually related to the Epic Arc. But, just so that you know, for every 16 regular missions that you complete of the same faction and level, you will be offered a storyline mission.
Docking permission requested.
Of the same faction and level. And at this point, I've just finished 16 missions for...
accepted.
I've just finished 16 missions for Sister Alatura, so that triggered a storyline mission offer. So if I wanted to, I could go to the journal and see what it's about. And in particular, this one is materials for war preparation. He just wants 1,000 Veldspar. Brought to Sharu, 10 Moon, 3 Sisters of Eve Bureau. That's easy. This could very easily have been a combat, a security storyline mission instead, where combat would be involved. And if that's the case, you probably don't want to touch that right away. Finish the epic arc first, then go on to handle this. Don't worry, you'll get many, many, many more storyline missions in the future. But for now, be aware it is not related to what you're currently doing. So let's talk to Sister Alatura. Deliver Tahaki Karin to the Society of Conscious Thought Luxury Space Liner. Make sure she's in your cargo hold, and undock. The Sisters and the Spy.
Warp drive active.
Her face is close enough, if you've only seen a photo or a holo. Right height, right weight, her voice is close enough too. Accent, vocabulary, everything suggests this is Tahaki Karin. She isn't, of course, but you've been forewarned. Anyone who knew the original would find themselves hard put to detect the mimic. There are little things, though. The scar on her neck is newer. Her nails are filed smooth rather than roughly clipped. And she listens to everything. She doesn't make a point of it, of course, but she's taking in everything. The whine of the electrical system, the buzz coming off the gravity plating. Who is she really? You don't know. But she's closer to being Karen than she is anyone else. Close enough. Now, of course, this will be a little bit slower with just an afterburner. If I had the CPU and the power grid, I would probably have swapped out a micro warp drive for this particular mission, but it's a little tight, so it wasn't an option, unfortunately. I'd have to unfit something else. Alright, let's put her in the cruiser, there we go. And let's dock back at station. Republic intelligence tells me you might have a lead on our prodigal son, Dagan. He needs to be taken down for everyone's good. The Republic will watch your back. I'll explain a little later what that means. But you're going to see 4 of those pop-ups.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
All right. Destroy the Society Spy. Alright, so click accept and close. One other thing about this fit. I have no tanking capabilities on this whatsoever. No repair, no armor repairer, no shield booster, no shield extender, no armor plates, no resistance modules of any kind. This is a glass cannon. The entire strategy relies on not getting hit. So, it's a little fragile. I mean, it'll probably stand up well enough to what's about to come, but just to be sure, you may want to insure the vessel, and go for platinum. I mean, it'll set you back about 335,000 ISK, but the ship as a whole and its fittings cost me around 3 million ISK or so. So, if it does explode, at least the insurance payout will defray the cost of trying to get a new one, while I pause the recording and actually go buy a new ship. Sealing the deal, warp to location.
Warp drive active.
Now, by default, my weapons have an optimal of about 5.5 kilometers and an optimal plus fall off of 15 kilometers. Let me turn on the tracking computers, and that goes up. Now I've got an optimal of 6.8, and optimal plus fall off is about 21 kilometers. Alright, start target locking things. I'm going to left click and drag. I'm going to hit my key binding for drones. Go shoot that thing. You'll also want to expand all the folders in your drone's window because you'll want to keep an eye on the health bars for your drones. And I'll go start shooting something else while they're at it. Now remember, I set those key bindings for all drones engage, all drones return in orbit, all drones return to drone bay. All drones return to drone bay! That's a good time to use that key binding. If you forgot to set a key binding, you can right click and and just click return to drone bay. And that is the demonstration of why you want to generally try to use your high slot weaponry to get their attention first. Then you put out the drones. By the way, you might also want to set them to focus fire and passive. That way they all attack the same target. And, yeah, they all attack the same target, and they only attack on your command, because if your drones go off to shoot a different group of NPCs, you could be in a bit of trouble. Reload the guns a little prematurely here. Amandani Youssef from Ushukone's Internal Security. We've been monitoring data traffic between you and the Sisters of Eve. Make sure your drones are on board. Dock.
Warp drive active.
No, don't get excited. We're all on the same side here. The Caldari state will help you get Dagan, as long as you hand him over to us once you've got him.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
Alright, request the next mission. Crits in Parthus. Now this is one of the two hard ones that I've been preparing for, and I actually had to read up on him. Basically, a lot of the static data, the data in the EVE Online that doesn't ever change except with patches, is hosted on third-party websites. And I do remember, I did look up some of my old videos from my last recording of this. Crits in Parthus is an NPC of type Independent Harbinger. He is essentially armor tanked. His weakest resistances are EM and Thermal. And he's equipped with an energy neutralizing ability. So he'll drain my capacitor empty within 25 kilometers. He can also do tracking disruption, but he only reduces my optimal range, presumably fall-off range, and tracking speed by 15%. Not too severe. The big worry, besides the energy neutralization, is that he's got turrets. He can reach out to 28 kilometers He's got optimal plus fall off of 28 kilometers, and if I really want to avoid damage by outranging him, I'd want to stay at optimal plus 2 fall off or 36 kilometers. But he's only got turret tracking, let's see, 0.033 radians per second against a cruiser-sized target. Let's scale that to player turret numbers. So compared to my own high slot weaponry, he's got a tracking speed of 10.56. So he can hit... So within 20 kilometers, his optimal range, he can hit a 40-meter frigate as long as he keeps the angular velocity below 10.6 milliradians per second. I'm a little bigger than that. Hold on, targeting, here we go. I have a signature radius of 72 meters. So, times 72 divided by 40... So Kritz and Parthas wants to keep me below 19 milliradians per second to hit me at least half the time. If I'm going to be within that range, I need to be going much faster than this. Or if I want to put this in radians per second, my angular velocity has to be much more than this number, 0.019 radians per second. That's my plan. Get in under the guns. I'm going to right-click, get repair quote because one of the drones took damage, repair all, and undock. Now, energy neutralization can be a significant issue, depending on your setup. Chasing shadows, warp to location.
Warp drive active.
I did not bring the correct ammunition type with me.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
Drop off the phase plasma. What the hell was I thinking? Alright, EMP for the short range, or proton if I'm going to try and hit long range. I'll load the proton first, because Kritz and Parthas is not going to be alone. Galente drones do thermal damage, but the different races of drones have different damage multipliers. So the Galente drones do the most raw damage, but it's all in thermal. Amarian drones deal electromagnetic damage,
Drive active.
but they don't deal as much of it. And having actually done the math for Kritz and Parthas in question, it turns out they're roughly the same. So no point in swapping out the drones. But those would be your ideal choices. Galente, so hammerheads and hobgoblins, or Amarian, so acolytes and infiltrators. Alright, time to get the hell away. Now, my mid-slots do use capacitor energy. So I want to get out of range of anything else before I start firing. At least 25 kilometers from Kritz and Parthas. Alright, let me set a default of 30,000 meters, and I will orbit Kritz and Parthas at 30 kilometers. Launch my drones. I will tell them to attack that mercenary rookie. Attack the other mercenary rookie. Oh, that is not good. Alright, they're on board.
Warp drive active.
Yep, definitely stayed out way too far at 30 kilometers trying to outrange his energy neutralizers. Alright. Select anything, right-click the orbit command, set a default orbit distance. This time I will set it to 4,000 meters.
Docking permission requested.
I need to get this damage patched up.
Docking request accepted.
So yeah, I was in a little bit of trouble. There, fixed. So I happened to notice that some of the brackets were somewhere in front of me because I was paying attention to things in space, and I just aligned to something that was in front of me. And when my drones returned, come right on back. I warp right on out, rather.
Active.
Alright, let me double check, set... Alright, yeah, default orbit distance 4,000 meters. Should be okay. Let's see, this is the angular velocity. If I'm going to be at 4,000, I need to be going at least 76 meters per second at that range. Yeah, I can do that. But I can't waste any... oh, boy. Alright, I'm a bit of a small target. It's going to take him a little bit of time to target lock me. And I'm keeping an eye on that all-important angular velocity number. Because it's got to be... okay, good, it's well over 0.019, so I should be fine now. Yeah, so I'm orbiting Crits and Parthis at 100 milliradians per second. It's the mercenary fighters who are doing the most damage to me right now. Because their weapons can actually hit me. Alright, I'm going to switch to EMP. I don't like how close I'm getting to that structure. Switch to tracking speed scripts. Now, Crits and Parthis is trying to hit my drones, but he's got the same issue with angular velocity there as he would with trying to hit my ship. So he's firing at my drones, but he keeps missing. That is the big disadvantage of medium-sized, long-range turrets, in this case beam lasers. Or, more precisely, an NPC ability that's themed after players' beam lasers. Boom. Done. That's an Mars citizen you've kidnapped, pilot, but if I understand your motives correctly, we can overlook that. Once you've extracted Dagan's location, we'll help you bring the Hammer of God down on him. And apparently CCP changed this, so that Kristen Parthis is teleported directly to your cargo hold. Interesting. I don't think that used to be the case last time I ran this. Did I bookmark this place? No, I did not. Bookmark a wreck. And return to station.
Warp drive active.
Now, if you find that this mission is too difficult for you, you can ask around to see if anybody's willing to help you. Ask, hey, I'm a new player, I'm having trouble with the SOE level 1 Epic Arc. Can somebody help me? So feel free to try and get help with that mission. And as you've seen, crits and Parthas can be teleported directly to your cargo hold. So unlike most regular missions, other players cannot steal your mission objective from you, which is the norm in EVE Online. So trust is a valuable commodity in EVE Online. Be aware of that.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
But yeah, if you're having trouble with it, feel free to ask other players for help. Complete the mission. Request the next mission. You'll be asked to pick one of the 4 commanders. Supposedly, the mission text claims that they're going to help you with the fight, but no matter what, you'll show up. You'll see a bunch of opposing NPCs, and some of them are going to get fried. You're going to be left with Dagan and 3 frigates to deal with on your own. So from your perspective, the fight's going to wind up being the same. What this choice really is about is which faction are you going to gain standings with when you complete this epic arc. For this run-through, I'm going to pick the Gallente commander, but you can pick any one of the 4, whichever one you think you're going to be running missions for on a regular basis to start off with. So this will give you a nice initial boost. To further understand what that's all about, you'll want to look up class recordings about Missioning 101 or Missions and Standings. For now, I'm just going to pick the Gallente commander, accept this choice, and I want to go to Bruce Coltern's Megathron in Cheru, set a destination, and close. Again, need to switch damage types for this. Dagan has much higher resistances in general, and is weakest to explosive and kinetic. And he's themed, his attack ability is themed after players' autocannons. So he's got short range, but a very high tracking speed. So let's see. Scale this up to player numbers from his signature resolution 125. So he's got a turret tracking number of 37.6, much higher than crits and Parthas. And I've actually run the math on this. I have to be orbiting within 2 kilometers to avoid getting hit by his guns. That's not exactly practical. Given that I'm going to have to be moving at 400 meters per second while I'm doing that. So I could very easily fly outside that range and then start getting hit again. And Dagan can do quite a lot of damage to me. So whereas I dealt with crits and Parthas by getting in under his guns, so to speak, that is by being so close with such a high angular velocity that he couldn't hit me, with Dagan, I need to outrange him. So first order of business, the drones have to go. No more thermal drones. Thermal is a bad choice. Split the Valkyrs. I need a stack of 3, stack of 2, shift, left click and drag. I need a stack of 1 on the warriors. Drop off the EMP. Right-click, stack everything. Fusion is the order of the day. Because with crits and Parthas, I was hitting with EMP damage, mostly EM. Fusion is mostly explosive. That hits right into Dagan's explosive hole on his resistances. Not that it's much of a resistance hole, he's still 73% resistant to explosive damage. So this is going to be a little tough no matter how you cut it, but... So instead of skipping through this 4 jumps of Stargate travel, let me talk about what your options are if you're flying some other race. So against crits and Parthas, if you chose an Amarian character, if you created an Amarian character, you've probably been flying Amarian ships, Amarian frigates and destroyers, you've probably been using beam lasers and pulse lasers. So your beam lasers and pulse lasers deal electromagnetic and thermal damage no matter what frequency crystals you load into that thing. So that fits very neatly into Crits and Parthas's resistance holes. If you are flying Galente, well, you can follow the example that I just gave you. Blasters and railguns aren't really a good fit, but they'll still work. But ideally, you would want to use drones that deal thermal damage or EM damage. So that means Galente drones or Amarian drones. If you're flying Caldari, you're going to want... Again, blasters and railguns can work, but they're not ideal. You're going to want to use light missiles or rockets instead, and choose Mjolnir. M-J-O-L-N-I-R. They'll be blue-tipped missiles. So Mjolnir missiles starts with an M-J. Those deal electromagnetic damage. If you're flying Minmatar, again, some Minmatar ships are bonused for missiles, so again, choose Mjolnir for your light missiles or rockets, and EMP or Photon, depending on whether you're... I don't recommend Photon, because I don't recommend... Photon's a long-range ammunition. And as you saw earlier, I don't recommend trying to hit Crits and Parthas from long range if you're a frigate or destroyer. That's not a good idea. So EMP for your autocannons. And you might want to consider using autocannons rather than artillery. For Dagan here, you see the setup that I'm going to use as a Galente character. The Algos bonuses the damage of its drones. It doesn't bonus the damage output of its high-slot weaponry in any way. So, might as well use artillery rather than railguns. If you're flying a Mar, that's going to be more of an issue. Lasers do not deal out any explosive or kinetic damage. So trying to hit Dagan with EM and thermal is going to be a nightmare if you're by yourself in a frigate or a destroyer. There are no Tech 1 Amarian frigates with drone damage bonuses. The Dragoon is the only Tech 1 Amarian destroyer with drone damage bonuses. So I'd say use a Dragoon with Minmatar drones, and for your high slots, use artillery with fusion rounds, and or light missile launchers using Nova light missiles. There's Bruce Coltern. Go ahead and warp to him.
Warp drive active.
If you're flying Caldari, again, you're probably going to want to use missiles, but this time it'll be Nova. So Nova light missiles or Nova rockets. Probably light missiles. Rockets are a short-range missile. You don't want to be short-range on Dagan. Absolutely do not be short-range on Dagan. Alright, let's warp to location.
Warp drive active.
Let me switch to the optimal range script, since that's what I'm going to need. While I'm flapping my jaw, right-click, move drone, new group, explosive mixed, press return, right-click a warrior, move drone, explosive mixed, there we go. Alright, so Galente Navy cruisers, excellent. Now for this, I want to use keep at range 18,000 meters. Alright, I'm going to send my drones off to deal with Dagan's escort. And I might as well save one of the Rex's location while I'm at it. Now, Dagan can move a bit quickly, so I'm definitely going to want the afterburner on for this. I'm not bothering to orbit Dagan because, again, Dagan has a significantly higher tracking speed than Crits and Parthis does. So, I don't want... orbiting would be pointless outside of 2 kilometers radius. So I'm just going to use keep at distance. I'm trying to outrange him, not outcircle him. So getting back to what I was saying, if you're using a Caldari character, you're going to want to use Nova light missiles. Do not use Nova rockets. Those require you to be in very close to Dagan. And if you're in a frigate or a destroyer as a new player, Dagan is going to slaughter you at close range. If you're Minmatar, again, missiles, Nova or... Yeah, Nova light missiles. And you'll also want to use artillery. And since you're flying Minmatar ships, your ships are going to actually be bonused for projectile weaponry. So Dagan has an optimal optimal range of 1,800 meters. A fall-off of 8,000 meters. So optimal plus fall-off is about 10 kilometers. And optimal plus 2 times fall-off is about 18 kilometers. So he can't hit me from out here. Or he can only hit me very rarely. 1 out of every 16 shots. Let me actually start up the guns. And Dagan's trying to chase me down. But because I have the afterburner running, he can't catch up. But yeah, Dagan does have a shield booster. So besides the passive shield regeneration, he's also trying to prop up his shields with a shield booster. Or, more precisely, an NPC ability that's themed as a shield booster. NPCs, as far as the game engine is concerned, are a different sort of beast from players. They don't actually have slots or power grid or CPU. They just have hit points on 3 layers, resistances on each layer, and whatever abilities Crowd Control Productions game designers gave to them. If I drop to a range of 10 kilometers, that puts me within his... That puts me at his optimal plus fall off. So I'm going to get hit half the time, which is not good. But here at 18 kilometers, I'm not sure if my weapons are going to do quite enough damage. I'm going to take a minor risk here and drop this to 16. So 16 kilometers. Hopefully... I'm turning my camera around, so if I have to double left click to get the hell away from him again, I can do that. Alright, my weapons are performing a little bit better. This could wind up being a long fight. We'll see. But yeah, besides the fact that he's got a shield booster, shields always have a natural passive regeneration, which is always fastest when the shields are at 1/4 full, and they're slower everywhere else. So the hardest part of this slog will be right after, right at around the 1/4 mark. So his shields are down to 1/2 right now. 1/4 is about here. 1/6 of his shields remaining is right at this horizontal tick mark. So that would be 16% shields on that left tick mark right there. So 25% is somewhere around here, I think.
A module has run out of charges.
The guns will not start up automatically again on their own. You do have to make sure to hit F1 to get them firing again. Oh, you know what else I forgot to do? I'm still training medium drone operation level 3. Here, let me remove this. Let me remove this. Let me apply unallocated skill points. Confirm.
Skill training completed.
There. And start training drones level 5, which will take a week. So I believe that just increased the damage of my drones. Accessories, log, and messages. Hard to tell. But yeah, Dagan's shields have just dropped below 25%, which means I've got him. It'll take a little while longer to chew through his armor, but he's not armor tank. He doesn't have an armor repairer. He doesn't have a hull repairer. I've got him. I just need to keep up the pressure. If you are going to try to outrange Dagan, remember he can get up to speeds as high as 350 meters per second. You need to be able to go faster than that. A micro warp drive is acceptable because being a bigger target is only going to help with angular velocity issues, not with range issues. If he can't hit you because you're too far away, the fact that you're using a micro warp drive is not going to make a difference. But if you're trying to circle in close around him, the fact that you're using a micro warp drive will absolutely make a difference, because being a bigger target means that it's easier for turrets to get hits on you when you're running in circles around them. If you want to know more about the mathematics behind that, you can check, I believe it's wiki.eveuniversity.org, and it's the article on turret damage. And if you're interested in missiles, you can also look up the article on missile damage. And he's down into structure. NPCs almost never try to warp away, or they're not scripted to try to do such things. So there's almost never a point.
Has run out of charges.
Bingo, there's the cargo container. There's never a point trying to bring a warp disruptor or warp scrambler. Was Dagan teleported into your cargo hold? No, he was not. Okay. Alright, so go to the cargo container. You might be asking for help, other players for help with Dagan as well. Again, as usual, you state you're a new player, you need help with Dagan, you need help with the SOE level 1 Epic Arc, could somebody help you? For regular missions, it is permissible for players to cause each other grief. However, there's a specific exception for new player content, including the Sisters of Eve level 1 Epic Arc. If somebody swipes Dagan from you, get a screenshot, get their name, go to the help function, go to the help center, and this will open up the help center in your default system browser, whether it's Google Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Internet Explorer, whatever, what have you. This is pretty far away. I'll save this as a separate location. Alright, go to our Man Dagan.
Warp drive active.
And you want to talk to Bruce Coltern. So if somebody steals Dagan from you and your character is less than 30 days old, that is absolutely a violation. Unless they're picking up Dagan for you and they're going to give them Dagan to you for free someplace safer, like one of the local stations. Alright, then that's fine. If they hand Dagan over to you for free, that's fine. If they're holding Dagan ransom so that you can't complete the mission, that's absolutely a violation. Report that to the Game Masters. But be aware that that's tutorial exemption specific for characters under 30 days old. Let's complete the mission. Request the next mission. Dal Segno al Fine. Deliver Dagan to the waiting Wreath-class Industrial. And that'll be here in Sharu.
Warp drive active.
Control spacebar. Double left click off to the side. Turn on the afterburner. Because I keep bumping the Megathron. Turn off the afterburner. Double left click off this way to cancel my sideways momentum. Right click this. Bingo, warp to location.
Warp drive active.
So there's actually a demonstration of how to deal with that situation. Rather than me just saying, if this happens to you then. Now as I recall, the music here should be the login music that was used during Apocrypha expansion.
Warp drive active.
Oh, they changed the music on this one. That's disappointing. Alright, so just go on over to the cargo wreath. What? Oh, there it is. I was wondering when that drone structure was going to show up. Dagan lies imprisoned within his pod. Distorted through the glass, you can see impressive chiseled features contorted in impotent rage. He knows he is at your mercy, and has every reason to fear the mercy of a capsule pilot. Move Dagan in. And the drone hive is gone. I told you need nothing to fear, pilot, thanks to your help. The rogue drones need no longer be a hindrance to our efforts. Return to your commander, which would be Bruce Coltairn, and tell him Dagan will no longer trouble the Empires. Farewell, perhaps there is hope for your kind yet. Alright, and that concludes... Hold on, let me actually talk to Bruce Coltairn here. Complete the mission. Alright, and that concludes the Sisters of Eve Level 1 Epic Arc, The Bloodstained Stars. There are 6 other Epic Arcs. Hold on, let me actually return to Arnon for my... well, let me fly back towards Arnon while I'm flapping my jaw here. There are 6 other Epic Arcs, but they are much more difficult. You're going to want to be much more comfortable with regular old mission running in general, and be able to use at least Tech 1 battleships with Tech 2 resistance modules. And you're probably going to... if you're going to try to do any of the other Epic Arcs, you're probably going to want to read the guides written by somebody named Jawin Datlaron. Auto-link character. Alright. So you want to Google search this player's name, Jawin Datlaron, Epic Arc Guide. So if you want to try any of the more difficult ones, but that's going to be at least a year away. you don't want to try that as a new player, definitely not alone. If you've got friends helping you, that's a different story. Your friends will probably have much more experience in EVE Online than you do. Follow their instructions and guidance. Right. Each epic arc has its own 3-month timer, so you can start this all over again. Be aware when I mentioned contacting the GMs in case your mission objective gets stolen, that's only for tutorial-specific content and only if your character is less than 30 days old. Like I said in How to Survive EVE Online, it is normally permissible for players in EVE Online to do all sorts of backstabbing with each other. So you might be minding your own business, running a mission, and then somebody else has used combat probes to find you, warps into your mission space, and steals your mission objective and demands money from you. Otherwise, you have to fail the mission, and depending on how he's agreeing to do that with you, he might not hand it over anyway. Insist on an item exchange contract.
Warp drive active.
But yeah, trust is a valuable commodity in EVE Online. But it is possible, even as a new player, to do the Sisters of EVE Level 1 Epic Arc entirely on your own, if you so choose. So hopefully this series of videos was of help to you. I'm Seamus Donoghue of EVE University. Thank you for watching.